What is up, folks? Welcome back to another episode of the show. It has been several days, and it's nice to be back. I took a few days off trying to configure some things and figure a few things out. Plus, I've kind of had a lot of stuff going on, so I apologize for that. And man, I tell you what, there is no shortage of stuff to go over in terms of what has been going on in the world since our last time recording. So the last episode was commemorating 50 episodes, and it was several clips of people who have given great advice on the show over the course of the year. And so I wanted to do that to kind of commemorate 50 episodes. Sorry, my cord's being crazy here. All right, there we go. And I hope you guys enjoy that. If you haven't checked it out, make sure you check that out. But I am having a cryptocurrency dude on this week. I don't know if you would call him a cryptocurrency expert or not. I don't know if he likes to be called that, but he knows his stuff about crypto. So I'm excited for that. And I'm looking forward to having a conversation with him. And then I've got a bunch of guests lined up, or I'm currently in the process of lining up for the next month or two. So it's going to be an awesome month. We're going to be kicking butt starting 2022 off. A lot of things that I want to do, and I'm excited to have you guys along for the journey. I wanted to, let me go live here real quick on my Instagram, try that out and see how that goes, see if we can get some questions from viewers while we record here. But I wanted to start off by kind of talking about the direction of the show and what the purpose of this show is, because at some points I've felt as though the show has had a little bit of an identity crisis in some sense, because I really just get on here and I talk about what I want to talk about. I'm not necessarily just a show on masculinity. I'm not necessarily just a show on politics. I'm not necessarily just a show on responsibility or science or I enjoy all of those topics. And so I'm basically get on here and talk about things that interest me and things that I think can bring you value. And obviously I have a certain background in certain things that I can speak with a little more authority on. So I do bring those particular topics up. But in case you're wondering, and I mention this because I have had some questions about what is the show about? Are you going to do more fitness stuff? Are you going to do more politics stuff? Are you going to do just commentary on current events or more guest interviews? And the short answer to that is really kind of all of it. I'm really interested in just creating an interesting show that brings you value daily or every other day. And so I just wanted to address that up front. And you look at all these videos that are about how to create a successful podcast or how to create a successful YouTube channel and whatnot. And it's always find your niche, find your very specific area that you want to target. And for me, I've thought a lot about that. And initially when I started this thing, and it started out as the Man Card podcast, the niche or the target audience was like young men who are maybe having an identity crisis in the modern era, with grappling with their masculinity and how it was accepted in the world. And it's evolved to more just talking to people who embody the free mind mentality. And that's why the name has been changed to Free Mind Podcast. And that's really the only unifying thread, keeping an open mind, talking about different topics. So that's what you can expect from me moving forward. I am going to start putting out more video content on YouTube that isn't just episodes of the podcast. I'll do a lot more clips, and I want to get out and actually talk to people at live events out in public, stuff like that, bring a microphone, talk to people about current events and things. So I'm looking forward to doing a lot more of that. But yeah, that's kind of what we can expect. And then depending on the guests that I have, that will kind of dictate the topic for the interviews. If it's someone in the fitness industry who, obviously I have a lot of ties in the fitness industry. So we would maybe record some footage training and then do a podcast together and that kind of stuff. So it's really just about the things that I think make me, and as an extension, a person in general, kind of a well-rounded human. And again, the common thread is just keeping a free mind and holding truth to power and being the best person you can be. So there's a lot of focus on the individual individuality and personal responsibility. But outside of that, it's going to kind of be all over the place. Now, when I do the solo episodes commenting on current events, obviously that's going to lean politically because a lot of current events are political, but not necessarily. You guys have heard me cover the structure on the moon captured by the Chinese rover, and you've heard me cover these nanobots or whatever they were called. I can't remember. Xenobots. That's right, because they were from Xenopus larvae. So again, it just depends on what's going on in the world. So it'll just be my perspective on those things. Got my girl Carrie in here, Stilettos and Shotguns, live on Instagram. What is up, my friend? I'm trying something different. I'm going live as I record the podcast, so we'll see how that goes. So if you guys have anything you want to talk about in here, ask me, and I'll talk about it on the show, and then you'll be on the podcast. I'll make sure I mention your name if you ask me a question and I talk about it. So first thing I want to talk about, because it has been a few days since I recorded, is this has been so satisfying to watch unfold, is Senator Karen, a.k.a. Elizabeth Warren, getting called out by Elon Musk on Twitter. And my God, you can say what you want about Elon, and I have issues with certain aspects of what he does, but for the most part, I mean, he's a based billionaire is the best way I could describe it. And he's coming after these people on Twitter, and it's a beautiful thing to see. So it was so crazy to me to see Elizabeth Warren, of all people, a career politician who literally lied about her ethnicity to improve her chances at admissions into universities and getting professorships, call a billionaire who has done multiple things to improve humanity a freeloader. That notwithstanding, the guy's going to pay the largest tax bill in U.S. history of any human ever this year. I've seen numbers ranging anywhere from 11 to 15 billion, but suffice it to say, it's way more than anybody else has ever paid. So the irony in that she chose him to call out, of all people, it really just makes me think that she's doing it on purpose. I mean, she's clearly doing it on purpose, but she's doing it knowing that he's not really a freeloader. She's doing it knowing that it's going to get the most press, the most attention. And look, here I am talking about her. So I guess it's worked. But it's just so hilarious. And if you guys haven't seen it, make sure you check out the Twitter thread between them, because, I mean, Elon doesn't hold back. He goes right for the throat. And he called her Senator Karen. He called her, what else did he say? Oh, of course, that he's going to be paying the largest tax bill in history for any American. And then he also posted a Fox News article that was talking about her fake Native American heritage. So the guy's a savage, and that has been beautiful to see. So I hope he keeps doing it. We need more of that. You guys need to remember that these politicians work for us. We elect them to work for us, to do our bidding. And they get on these power trips where they think that they're the ones in control and that we have to answer to them. And that's not the case. And you saw it beautifully carried out here, where she's calling out a citizen who, again, has created thousands of jobs. He has actually created thousands of millionaires from early employees of Tesla who have paid massive tax bills themselves. And then, I mean, when you look at the amount of tax revenue generated by the efforts of Elon Musk, calling him a freeloader is one of the most preposterous, asinine, uneducated, unintellectual, awful things you could say. I mean, it's such a joke. And here's the crappy part, guys, is that when she tweets stuff like that, it gets thousands of likes and retweets and stuff. So there are a lot of people out there who actually believe this woman and what she's saying when she calls Elon Musk a freeloader. The man was just voted Time Person of the Year. He has Tesla, SpaceX, The Boring Company, Neuralink. He was heavily involved in Solar City. A lot of people forget that he created PayPal. I mean, if this woman is going to call out Elon Musk for being a freeloader, all you have to do is just compare what he's done for humanity to what she's done for humanity. And you get a good laugh at it, because it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I can't even believe we're letting her still be around and be in a position in politics when it was exposed that she flat out lied about her ethnicity. Oftentimes we forget that when you have scenarios like that, right, where she lied, and this Canadian health official who lied about her ethnicity, it seems to be a common thread amongst leftist white women. I don't know if they just so desperately want to be minorities or people of color, but they lie about these things. And what you have to remember is when that happens, they're taking a position from someone who actually is a member of those communities. So not only is Elizabeth Warren abhorrent at face value for lying about her ethnicity, she's abhorrent even deeper than that because she's taking from minority communities. And she doesn't mind doing that. So when they give you this whole spiel about how they're for disenfranchised communities and people of color and minorities, all they're thinking in their head is get that vote, get that vote, get that vote. They could not care less about those communities. In fact, they will leverage those communities to get whatever they can and then move on. You saw it when Joe Biden promised all these things that he's now not delivering on. You see it with Elizabeth Warren taking advantage of claiming to be a different ethnicity so that she can get into schools and have an edge as far as admissions go. They don't care about these communities. They truly don't. And I used to be naive enough to think that they did. And then when you start to really dig into these things time and time again, it's very clear that, in fact, they do not. So that's a bit of a tangent off of the Elon thing, but if you guys haven't checked that out, definitely check out the Twitter thread between Elon Musk and Elizabeth Warren. Also between Elon Musk and Bernie. Bernie said something, I can't remember what he said, but Elon replied like, "You're still alive," or "I forgot you're alive," or something like that. So based Elon, I love it. He's becoming more and more outspoken, and I don't know if it's because he has all this sort of tension between him and the Biden administration and this animosity, because I don't know if you guys remember, there was this electric car, summit or whatever. So Biden had all these heads of large vehicle companies or whatever, and it was specifically about electric cars. And he didn't invite Elon, who has pioneered the industry in America, essentially. So I think Elon's probably a little salty about that. I mean, clearly there's some animus between him and the Biden administration. And I love to see it. I love to see it. And I don't care what side of the aisle the politician is on, per se. I just love to see when people who have high profile personalities and are in the spotlight hold truth to power in a legitimate way, not virtue signaling, not putting up a facade, pretending like they care about these issues. But Elon is straight up calling them out, and he doesn't give a shit. And so it's beautiful to see. So anyway, check that out. Another thing that has transpired since my last episode, and it's really disturbing to see. So I've talked about the new CEO of Twitter and essentially previous statements he's made where he has said in no few words that he doesn't care about free speech and that shouldn't be their concern. Well, now Twitter is actively censoring accounts that say, and not even censoring, I mean penalizing accounts that say that vaccinated or fully vaccinated people can catch and spread COVID. So let me rephrase that so that maybe it's a little more impactful. Twitter is going to penalize you for stating a scientific fact. And no, guys, it is not mid-1940s Germany. It is 2021 in America. They're saying, yes, there is this fact. It does exist. It is scientifically grounded in research and been replicated many times in falsifiable settings, but we're not going to let you say it. And if you do, we're going to penalize you for it. That is 1984 in real life. There's no other way to look at it. It is straight up censoring facts because they harm the narrative of the state. So big tech is the speech enforcement arm of the state. Now, it is absolutely ridiculous. It's not grounded in any truth or facts or medical science whatsoever. And I'm telling you this as a biochemist, even the CDC has made public statements, and the WHO, and name whatever corrupt body you want to, stating that vaccinated people can spread COVID. I mean, this is like common knowledge. My 4-year-old will tell you that. But Twitter is censoring you if you say that, which is, I mean, it's crazy. Folks who are on the live, if you got any thoughts about that, feel free to chime in. So strong data guy, Elon Musk is going to be on Babylon Bee podcast tomorrow. Oh, snap. All right. Well, I will definitely be tuning into that. You guys make sure you check that out. Hopefully, maybe one day we'll have Elon Musk on Free Mind podcast, bitches. Tree Limb Fishing. Hope you're having a good night, buddy. Hope you and your family have a Merry Christmas. Thank you, brother. So Tree Limb Fishing, you guys, if you're into fishing, as I am, and if you follow me for any considerable amount of time, you know that I'm like way into fishing. Tree Limb Fishing is a great YouTube channel. He's my fishing buddy that I go catfishing with quite often. So if you guys like outdoor content, check him out. He's doing his thing. Let's see. Rise and whatever _. Always has run cover for sketch government agendas. Nothing new. Well, I agree. I agree with you on that for sure. 100%. But it doesn't mean we can't keep talking about it and be outraged about it. So I'm going to keep flying off at the mouth as long as I have a mouth to fly off with. And Sean, with a bunch of numbers after that, says just like natural immunity. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Just like natural immunity. And look, the natural immunity thing, and who knows, I might even get freaking removed from YouTube for talking about this. But the natural immunity thing is such common, like microbiology 101 stuff that, I mean, for you to just try and ignore the fact that your body's immune system generates a response when you have a disease or pathogen present, I mean, that's just like saying 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4. I mean, this is classic immunology. And look, I understand that maybe some people feel as though they're acting benevolently, which I doubt many of them do. But let me just try to be as fair-minded as possible here. And they think that it might create vaccine hesitancy. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What is America about? It's about the fact that we are sovereign individuals and we can make our own decisions, and you need to treat us as such. This whole idea that the state knows better than the people, that's not what we do here, okay? If you want to go be in Australia, go be in Australia or the UK or anywhere else, or Canada for that matter. But America is different in that regard. And that's why there is a waiting list of millions of people who want to get into this country. That's why. And people like to joke and make snarky little comments, especially people on the left, and be like, oh, my freedom. Yes, you're fucking absolutely right, our freedom. It's that important. And you can joke about it all you want, but you joke about it because you've never experienced it being taken away. And you've probably never experienced hardship or adversity in your life. And so you feel like you have this protection that's never going to go away. And so you take this freedom for granted. Well, let me challenge you to do this if you are one of those people. Talk to somebody whose family has immigrated from a country that had socialism, or at least talk to someone who immigrated from a country that legislates the control of speech. So in other words, let's take Germany, for example. You can just say words and get put in jail for saying words. Okay. Now this might sound like a crazy foreign concept if you're American because you've enjoyed freedom of speech. They don't have that everywhere. In fact, they don't have that pretty much anywhere else but here, the way we have it, constitutionally protected. So, yeah, it's a big deal when we talk about that stuff. And when you make jokes about it and belittle it, I'm telling you, man, you don't want to experience the alternative. So I don't know where I was going with that. I feel like I was ranting probably about Twitter censoring scientific facts. But anyway, so that's going on. They're penalizing you if you say you can catch and spread COVID if you're fully vaccinated. Twitter will give you a strike or whatever the hell they do over there. I'm not that big on Twitter. I really just tweet to screenshot it and post it to my Instagram, but I started doing a little more Twitter lately. All right, let's see what else we got here on the Instagram Live. Vaccine hesitancy is created first and foremost by attempting to force it upon people against their will. Say it again for the people in the back. That is absolutely true. Look, I'm going to tell you guys a story, okay? When I was in high school, I went to church a lot. I didn't go to church a lot because I was seeking God. I'm embarrassed to say. I went to church a lot because the preacher's daughter was hot, and it was something that I couldn't have, or that I was told that I shouldn't pursue. And you know what I did? I hooked up with the preacher's daughter. And that's exactly what's happening with these vaccines. We naturally, especially in America, we are going to push back against being told we can't have something, right? Anybody who's parented a child knows this to be fact, okay? If I tell my daughter, like, there's something in the closet, but she can't go look, like maybe it's a toy or something that I'm waiting to give her for Christmas, that girl's going to be up in that closet so fast it'll make your head spin, all right? So the best approach, and the American approach, is to just give people all the information and trust them as sovereign humans with prefrontal cortexes capable of making decisions, and let the chips fall where they may. All right? Look, ultimately what that tells me, if you don't take that approach, is that you don't believe in humanity and that you don't believe people are capable of making good decisions. All you have to do is look to Florida and see what Ron DeSantis has done by leaving it up to the people. They still have vaccination rates as high as California statewide, and they weren't forced to do it. They have the lowest case numbers daily, at least last I checked, and they don't have mask mandates or vax passports or any of that crap. You know why? Because when you trust humans to do the right thing and you give them all the information and let them act as adults making their own decisions, they're not children. They're not stupid. I mean, some are, but for the most part, they're going to make the right decision for themselves. And ultimately, if someone decides that the vaccine isn't for them, that's their own choice to make. That's their personal health. It doesn't make them more of a danger to society. It doesn't make them more likely to give you the disease. All right. We know, at least with certain variants, that the viral load is the exact same between vaccinated and unvaccinated, which, by the way, Twitter would probably take me down for saying that too. I mean, my last strike that I had on Instagram was I was sharing a peer-reviewed scientific article. That's all it was. It was literally just, I posted a screenshot of a peer-reviewed scientific article. It was a meta-analysis of like 60 studies looking at a particular drug and its efficacy in treatment, not even prevention, but treatment of COVID. And they took it down as misinformation. This is a peer-reviewed scientific article. And we have whoever, interns at social media companies, deciding they know better than PhD scientists, right? And that's why I'm shadow banned, basically, because of that. I still have that pending or whatever. I've appealed it and all that. But so that's what we're up against. And I don't even know what I was talking about. Oh, I think I was still ranting about the Twitter stuff, and maybe I was responding to someone on the live here. But yeah, that's right. The vaccine hesitancy is created by forcing it upon people. Yeah, just like I wanted to go see the preacher's daughter when I was a young lad. Government doesn't believe in humanity; they believe in control and power. Sadly, that's 100% true, and as long as we let them continue to make that their prerogative, then that's what's going to happen. Look, you saw this clear as day when Donald Trump took office, all right? He was the biggest threat to date to their nice, cushy little control on the power dynamic. And I'm not talking just Democrats. I'm talking Republicans, all of these freaking folks who have been around for decades, who have got their sweet little cushy gig. They're entrenched in the deep state. They get millions of dollars, right, through shady back channel deals and working with lobbyists, etc. They saw Donald Trump as the proverbial bull in the china shop that was going to come in and ruin everything for them. Okay, he was threatening to drain the swamp, and that's why you had never Trump Republicans, and that's why obviously the Dems and all of mainstream media absolutely hated him. Not because he was an awful human and all these like things that they made up to call him. It was because he threatened their stranglehold on power. Look, all you have to do is look at the guy's, like truly look at the guy's messaging and what his platform was and what he wanted. And it becomes very obvious that he was the furthest thing from a, quote, dictator, which was always hilarious to me when people called him that. Here's a guy coming in, making a promise to deregulate in massive amounts, and you're calling him a dictator. Here's a guy who pushes a lot of things out to states' rights, right? Who supports federalism, it's even when it comes to the treatment of COVID, right? And you're calling him a dictator. Meanwhile, we've got Joe Biden now who wants to use the federal government to strong arm you to inject a drug into your body. And you call Donald Trump a dictator? Like, what upside down world do you live in where that's your standard for what makes a dictator? So in other words, a dictator is just someone you don't like who maybe says mean things that you don't like on Twitter. Meanwhile, someone can forcibly make you inject drugs in your body and control from the top down, and they're not a dictator? Yes, because two parties are just two heads of the same snake. I mean, yeah, for the most part, that's 100% true, which is, I think there are some redeemable characters on both sides. I think you can count them on one or two hands, but for the rest of them, absolutely. I mean, it's sad. So let's see what else we got from the live, if anything here. No, nothing else. All right. So the other thing I wanted to touch on, obviously everybody's probably seen Build Back Better has failed because of Joe Manchin, Kristen Sinema, and maybe even one other Dem. I can't remember. But Joe Manchin is essentially the one catching all the heat for this. You don't see much mention of Kristen Sinema as far as all this goes, probably because after those people chased her into the bathroom, there was so much heat on the corporate media that they had to chill out on how much they were flaming Sinema. Sandman just reached an agreement with NBC. And Kyle Rittenhouse is definitely going to be suing all of them, probably. So I think they're having to be a little careful. And, they're losing staff because all their staff are sexual harassers and pedophiles. So, and that's not an exaggeration. I'm talking specifically about CNN. You can whack off on Zoom and still not get kicked off CNN. So that's how low their standard is. Did the military let a bunch of people go for not being vaxxed? So I read something about that, and I can't remember specifically what it was. So let's check it out and see using. So here, this is from CBS. This says military begins discharging troops who refuse COVID-19 vaccine. And that is freaking sad, man. Freaking sad. All of the U.S. military services have now begun disciplinary actions and discharges for troops who have refused to get the mandated coronavirus vaccine, officials said, with as many as 20,000 unvaccinated forces at risk of being removed from service. Holy crap, y'all. On Thursday, so this was printed 3 days ago, so it would have been Thursday of last week. The Marine Corps said it had discharged 103 Marines so far for refusing the vaccine. Now, remember, this is a vaccine that does not prevent you from catching or spreading the virus. All it does is mitigate your symptoms to a oftentimes small degree. It does not protect anyone else around you, but our military is eliminating people for not getting it. This is just absolutely ridiculous. So the Army has said it's reprimanded more than 2,700 soldiers and will begin discharge proceedings in January. The Air Force said earlier this week that 27 airmen had been discharged for refusing the vaccine order. The Navy laid out its new discipline procedure this week and has already fired one sailor from his command job for refusing to be tested while he pursues an exemption. Wow. So that he was pursuing an exemption and they fired him anyway before the exemption had even been ruled on. Man, this is sad stuff, man. Sad stuff. Like, you protect our nation, you protect our freedoms, you'll put your life on the line for us, Yet, if you don't obey this draconian measure, we're going to remove you from duty. It's shameful, man. This is not what this country is about. Like, this is not, man, it's so embarrassing. It truly is. If you're a military service member and you have faced a scenario like this, reach out to me, tell me your story. I'd love to showcase it here on the show, because this is insane. I mean, we have had Joe Biden multiple times flat out say, when giving speeches, if you want to call them that, speech I use very loosely, because what he puts out of his mouth is not exactly what I would call speech. It's something approximating an attempt at speech. But he has said multiple times that if you're vaccinated, you can't catch COVID. And I'm not exaggerating. He has said that verbatim. Yet, where are the fact check tags? Where's the follow-up saying that the president was wrong? None of that. None of that. I mean, that's as dangerous as it gets. And no wonder there are people out there who are still spouting off these asinine assumptions that if you're vaccinated, you can't get COVID. I mean, who still freaking believes that beside our president, right? But he's not fact-checked. He's not taken to task for it. All right, so here's Savagely Loud again on the Instagram Live. Build Back Better was the single most pet ant phrase in proving how many people don't think. Yeah, it's literally another way of saying make America great again. Not what? Yeah, and a lot of us joked about that early on. It was like, how much is he going to rip Trump off here? Build Back Better. So yeah, I agree. So that's what's going on right now. I mean, and I believe a federal court actually ruled to reinstate Biden's stupid mandates, or at least one federal court did. So, this thing is not over. The fight still goes on, and it's, I don't know, man. It's frustrating. I'm glad to hear every day from people who are standing up and fighting and refusing to just lay down over this stuff. But it's sad to see. We got a long way to go, and we got a lot of work to do. But I think we'll get there, and I believe in us. And with that, I'm going to see if anybody else on the live has any questions or anything I want to cover. Just to recap, we talked about kind of the general direction and the purpose of the show and what I'm going to be doing more of in the new year. I covered Twitter covering scientific facts, or censoring scientific facts, rather, blatantly saying you're not allowed to say that fully vaccinated people can catch COVID, which is a fact. And then we talked about, of course, Elon Musk, Elizabeth Warren, and their whole spat. Oh, I did want to mention also, along the lines of the Elon Musk, Elizabeth Warren thing, I don't know if you guys know who Joy Reid is. If you don't, then you're kind of lucky, because, man, what a awful human, and just empty skull. There's no brain in there for sure. And if there is, it's probably got as many neurons as like a planarian flatworm. But Joy Reid has also called Elon Musk out for appropriating culture, because he called Elizabeth Warren Karen. And apparently, and I didn't know this, but apparently that phrase belongs to black people. And if you call someone a Karen, that's appropriating black culture. I mean, I've used that for years. I mean, I've seen people of all races, ethnicities, colors, backgrounds, creeds use the Karen analogy. I didn't realize that black people had a monopoly on it. But apparently, and if you guys didn't know that, if you're a white person, or I guess anybody who's not black, period, you're not allowed to call someone a Karen, or else you're appropriating black culture, according to Joy Reid, the what would you say, shining beacon of intellectual thought and discourse. No, I'm just kidding. She's an absolutely disgusting race baiter, and she makes no sense ever. She never knows what she's talking about. Nothing she says is ever rooted in actual fact. And people still buy into what she says, and that's pretty freaking sad, to be quite honest. And, I mean, here you have, it's just like you have to just sit back and laugh at this stuff when you see, because there was a moment when Elizabeth Warren, and I'll try to add this video clip into the YouTube version, but there's a moment where Elizabeth Warren and Joy Reid there's a split screen and they're talking about it like Elizabeth Warren had owned Elon in that Twitter thread, which of course absolutely did not, right? Like everybody, the consensus on Twitter was that Elon absolutely owned her. But you have these two people who are basically bad-mouthing this guy who's an immigrant who built a multi-billion-dollar enterprise solving some of humanity's largest problems, right? They're calling him a culture appropriator and a freeloader. Meanwhile, the white lady who is part of this has lied about her ethnicity and claimed to be Native American so that she could get ahead in the admissions process of university, and she was listed on Harvard's website as I believe it was like one of the first women of color professors. Elizabeth Warren, a woman of color. Like, you can't even make this stuff up, you guys. So this is how awful these people are, though. And they will say this stuff. I just punched the microphone. Sorry. They'll say this stuff right to your face, and they think you're so stupid that you're not going to catch on to it. Same thing with Don Lemon. Same thing with freaking Stelter. All of them. I mean, they just think you're an idiot. They think you're an idiot, and they think that they can spoon feed you this crap and you're going to buy it. And I don't know if it's because they don't expose themselves to alternative media, but I don't even know if they realize how quickly their grasp on the discourse is slipping away. And it's an absolute privilege and a pleasure to play some small part in that. And, hopefully one day it'll be a larger part, but this is what we have to do. We have to keep talking. We have all these mechanisms and tools at our disposal where we can actually have conversations that touch hundreds, thousands, millions of people. And that's the way we are going to win this battle. And when I say we, let me be very clear about that too, and I'll wrap up with this. When I say we, I'm not talking about the right. I'm not talking about the center. I'm not talking about the left. I'm talking about all of that, but we, the people. I'm talking about those of us who are not the establishment, those of us who are not the ruling elite class. When I made that sign that said they want us to hate each other, don't let them win, I was talking about all of us, the people, left, right, center, whatever. I don't care your beliefs. I believe in your right to state them and to speak about them freely and to assemble and to live your life as an autonomous, sovereign human being. What I don't want is the government telling us how we should live, forcing us to hate one another, controlling us like pawns on a chessboard. And that's exactly what the they is that I refer to on that sign. They is the establishment, the deep state, the ruling elites. And a lot of people laugh at speak like that and say, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. No, man, no. This is the truth. This is the state of things. This is what we're up against. And this is why I always approach this from a message of unity insofar as I don't care if you are a lefty. Like, I want to have a conversation with you because at the end of the day, you're getting screwed just as hard by the establishment as I am. So the only way that we prevail, the only way that we transcend the ceiling that they try to place on us is to come together. If you think for a second that race relations in this country are anywhere near as bad as they would have you believe in the news, just turn your TV off, turn your social media off, get out, walk around, talk to people. It is not that bad. They need it to be that bad. They need the conflict because it's the lifeblood of their industry. It's the only way the corporate media can stay alive and stay afloat is to have division and controversy, because that's the last bit of income, of your attention, of whatever you want to call it, that they have, that they're grasping onto. And so we can't let them have that. We have to jerk it out of their hands, and we jerk it out of their hands by doing this, by talking to each other, by telling your fellow black neighbor, your Asian neighbor, your white neighbor, whatever, female, male, gay, straight, I don't care. I could not fucking care less. All right. We're all the people. We're all together. We're all in the fight together against them. We can't let them divide us. And look, I get attacked all the time for it. You guys, if you look at any of my content, look at the comments, you've probably seen it. I get attacked all the time for talking about us coming together. There's people on the right who don't like the fact that I say that. There's people on the left who don't like the fact that I say that. But I'm sorry, that is the only way we progress as Americans, as the people against the establishment. So I hope you'll think about that, and I hope you'll give it a chance, because truly, and look, you saw that, all right? You saw that in Virginia with this election, where you had essentially the ruling class telling parents that it's not up to them what their teachers teach their kids in schools, that parents shouldn't have a say on what happens in the classroom. And we, the people, came together on that and voted against the dude who was pushing that. So it can be done. It can be done, but we have to look. One of the most unifying things in this world is a common enemy. And we need to realize that we have a common enemy. We do have a common enemy. And once we realize that, and once we realize when you see people like Joy Reid talking about how Elon Musk is appropriating black culture by saying Karen, she's only doing that to further divide us. She doesn't really believe that crap. She's doing it because she knows that it's going to stoke racial division. That is her whole shtick. She has to make black people hate white people and white people hate black people and create that tension, or else she's got nothing, because she doesn't have two brain cells to rub together to do any actual real journalism or real reporting. So she has to cling desperately to that narrative. And you see more and more every day where people are waking up. And it's a beautiful thing, and I hope we keep doing it. And I'm not just going to keep ranting. But let me just check the live one more time before we jump out of here, so I can make sure I shout anybody out that deserves to be shouted out. Joyless Reed, yes, absolutely, John. Joe Biden equals The Walking Dead. He certainly does. Savagely Loud, a fake Native American whining about appropriating black culture, like what she did with... Exactly. Thank you very much. Look, it's how I feel as a redneck when I see somebody wearing a Bass Pro Shops hat and they don't fish. Like, my God, they're appropriating my culture. Who cares? Jesus. Well, here's what else was pretty hilarious. Not that it matters, but I just thought it was so ironic. I said I was going to jump off, but I'm sorry. I just got to mention this. Joy Reid, when she's talking about this stuff, talking about Elon appropriating black culture, she literally has like blonde hair. Like her hair is lightened, right? So I just think that's hilarious when you'll have like a black woman with blonde hair talking about a white man using black culture. It's like, it's all preposterous. And here's the thing that I want to make very clear. I want her to have her blonde hair. I think that she should. And at the same time, I want Elon to be able to use a black phrase. Like, I just think it's so hypocritical for her to appropriate culture while calling someone out, right? So anyway, it's just crazy town. Did someone say Bilderberg Group? Yes, absolutely. And that's very interesting stuff, you guys. If you haven't looked into the Bilderberg Group, read up on that whole thing, I can't go into that because I'll be on here for another hour. But check that out for sure. If you don't believe that there's controlling ruling class elites in this country with the sole desire to stay in power and to keep that power and to expand that power and to continue to drive us to hate one another so that we stay divided and they can control us, then just look at things like the Bilderberg Group. There's a lot of stuff like that out there, and this isn't debatable. It exists. All right. Which is why I also have even more respect for Elon, because he's kind of like the cool kid in the cafeteria who decides to sit with the nerds, right? Like, and maybe he's a double agent, who knows? But I love the fact that he's at least publicly based in calling these people out. So you've exposed yourself to them now. Yeah, I've already exposed myself to them. This is why they shadow ban me on Instagram. They shadow ban me on YouTube. They freaking everywhere, man. They hate. And the crazy thing is, I almost think they hate the message of unity more than they hate, like, if I were some crazy alt-right just saying, like, Dems are demon rats and blah, blah, blah. Like, I think they're okay with that because that keeps furthering the division. But I'm a real big problem because I talk about us coming together against them, against the establishment. And I truly believe that's why I get, like, censored way heavily compared to even, like, extreme right-wing accounts. And I agree with a lot of, if not most of the stuff that DC Drano posts, right? But, I mean, he doesn't get shadow banned, right? Like, he'll post something in 3 minutes. It's got whatever, however many thousands and thousands and thousands of likes. So clearly, and yeah, he's got 1 million plus followers, but clearly they're showing his posts to those people. And I truly think it's that. If I just all of a sudden decided that I was going to be this, like, extreme alt-right figure instead of trying to bring us together. And look, I make no bones about the fact that I lean right on most issues, but I'm still talking about unity and coming together. If I switch that up, I feel like they wouldn't censor me anywhere near as bad as they do. But anyway, I digress. All right, my friends, that's been another episode of Free Mind Podcast. I'm going to start cranking out an episode a day again. I took a few days off, so I appreciate y'all bearing with me. And as I said at the beginning of this thing, keep an eye out for a lot more video content on the YouTube channel that's not just podcast episodes, but I'm going to be doing a lot more stuff in 2022, like getting out in public, talking to people, having conversations and recording them, asking random people on the street questions to kind of get some engaging and interesting content to kind of find out, what the narrative is out there and what people are talking about and concerned with. Bringing in a lot of interesting guests coming up in the next month or two. I've got, as long as things don't fall through, I've got David Lucas coming in at the end of January. He's a hilarious stand-up comedian, and I'm doing an episode with Gina Hyena, who's another hilarious stand-up comedian. You've probably seen, if you watch Kill Tony, Tony Hinchcliffe, his podcast where he brings on open micers to do a minute. They're both from Kill Tony. So I'm bringing those guys on. I have a cryptocurrency expert coming in later this week in studio to sit down and talk to me about crypto and Bitcoin and Ethereum and all that stuff, and NFTs. I'm especially interested in learning about NFTs. And then a couple other people that I'm working out scheduling with, some pretty big names. So I think it's going to be some exciting stuff, and I'm looking forward to it. I will end on this. If you think you would be an interesting podcast guest, if you have a valuable message to share and you want to come on, and hey, look, listen when I say this. If you differ in your opinions from mine, let's say you're on the far left, I invite you to come on and discuss things with me. And I say that genuinely, okay? I want to have conversations with people I disagree with. So reach out to me on here through YouTube, through Instagram, through Twitter. I'm everywhere. If you look for this podcast or my name, you will find me. I'm everywhere. And reach out and say you'd like to come on. Or if you have a guest suggestion for the podcast or know somebody that you'd like to see come on that we have a conversation with, let me know. Put me in contact with them. I'd be happy to. And like I said at the beginning, the only common thread on this show is a free mind. That's it. So the topics can run wild. And I'm looking forward to doing that and just talking to interesting people about interesting things. And so until next time, my friends, those of you out there listening on Spotify, Apple, and through YouTube, and also on the Instagram Live right now, until next time, keep your minds free. Peace.